Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Conroy-Roth, and you're watching the latest episode of Lightning Leadership. With me today is Dr. Steve Ashley, and I'm really excited to have him on the program. Steve and I met back in early 2000 when we were both practitioners. Well, he's still a practitioner, but working at a company up in Chicago. Lost touch for a few years, quite some time, and then reconnected about 5 years ago and have been talking ever since. But someone I admire, someone that I trust, and someone that I think you need to know. Steve Ashley, welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you, Teresa.
Absolutely. Good to see you. So, we were talking earlier about your journey into AI and just some of the things that you're doing, some classes that you're taking, a passion project that you take on above and beyond some of the other things that you do. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you're doing and the classes that you've taken and your journey forward.
Yeah, so, as you know me, my background stems deeply in technology application design. And back in around 2019, before everybody started adopting AI, I was designing and developing AI architecture. And over the course of the last 5, 6 years, as AI adoption has changed in our organizations, a lot of my development started tending more into how do you manage AI. And so a lot of my work recently over the past year has been deeply rooted in AI research. Recently completed Chief AI Officer program at University of Miami, which I thought was extremely interesting. We'll have to talk about that sometime.
Yeah.
But a lot of the work that I do today is centered around what I call Trust First AI. And what Trust First AI is, it's a methodology framework in not so much the governance of AI and the policy around AI, but how do we manage AI from a systems application architecture perspective? So that's kind of led me here where we're at today, in our discussion. So
Yeah. So as we talk about how organizations move beyond traditional governance models and begin architecting trust directly into execution, what advice do you have for folks that are looking to go that path or looking, obviously that's where they need to go, but what advice do you have for leaders in that space?
well, one of the challenges that I see within organizations is that where organizations are adopting a maturity model. How do we
Yes.
how do we ramp up to AI? How do we get using AI? How do we involve our workforce and leverage AI to the benefit of the organization? The challenge with that is that a lot of organizations don't necessarily have the right architecture framework to implement AI, meaning that we allow our workforce to use Copilot. We're introducing ChatGPT into the workplace,
Sure.
and we're building new agentic agents to automate our work, to improve our work. But when we start talking about the impact of AI, as many people already have experienced, AI has a tendency to drift. AI
It
has a
does.
tendency to hallucinate. And the reason for that, is at the foundational end of it. So if you think about all the data, AI is nothing more than, a mathematical algorithm.
Sure.
And AI is only as good as the information that you give it.
That is
And
true.
the way AI is built from an agentic perspective, it looks at the data, and if it doesn't understand the data, it's going to infer what the meaning is. And so, my advice to organizations is to think about AI from a regulatory exposure perspective first before adopting and proliferating AI throughout the organization.
Great points. So we talk a bit, I know we're having internal conversations with the company that I work, is that concept of not only data, being ready and using the data, but then also the change and the change impact and the communications. And obviously you're going to have a governance, around that. Do you have any tips or advice in that particular space for your end users or your business leaders?
So definitely have a governance framework. And again, you're going to hear me talk a lot about regulatory compliance.
Sure.
Having a AI governance policy. A lot of organizations put policies together as far as this is how we'll use AI. This is the proper usage, just like we do with the internet in our work environment.
That's a great point.
But we need to extend that policy a little bit further. We need to look at AI from an impact, not only to the end user community, but how that AI works, what information the AI looks at, how your AI is training external models. A lot of people don't realize that if you upload something into, Chat GPT, Claude, other AIs, that you're basically training a larger data model. So your data is not necessarily private. And that has a potential of causing regulatory issues, concerns. And so as we build out these frameworks and governance models, we need to be thinking about how do we govern AI from a regulatory perspective.
Okay.
And that kind of gets into the whole trust first AI. And when I say trust first AI, basically what it comes down to is we don't trust AI. We use AI as a utility, but we don't trust it. And so you have to build in trust in the architecture so that you can trust AI.
Yeah.
So anytime that we develop an agentic agent, we need to be thinking about how do we monitor it? How do you monitor what AI is doing in the background so that when auditors, if you're using AI or an AI agent to help facilitate something within your finance or accounting group, you need to be thinking about how you're going to prove what AI has done. And so, it's one thing to build agents and to expand AI usage within the organization,
Yeah.
but we have to be thinking about the risk factor of AI.
Amen. So talking about schemaverse ontology, right? How does that change enterprises and the way they think about data, interoperability, AI-driven decision-making?
That is a really exciting question. One of my favorites.
I thought you would say so.
When we think about semantic models, semantic data, and we think about data lakes and where AI goes to get its information, we're going to do two things with AI. We're going to look internally at our own internal data lakes, our own internal large language models, or we're going to use OpenGPT, OpenAI, ChatGPT, or things of that nature, and we're going to draw from those large language models. One of the problems that you have internally is that even within your data lake, you have data from multiple systems.
You do.
And if the way AI looks at that data, it infers the definition and the meaning. Even if you have good metadata around your data, the way AI looks at it, if you have one record that indicates an address and another field that indicates home address or business address, AI looks at those differently, and internally they might be the same address.
It might.
and AI might look at it as being separate addresses. So you are starting to hear a lot of conversation around semantic data. And semantic data is conditioned information, conditioned data within our data lakes, within our data stores, but it's not enough. So what Schemaverse does is it looks at data not from the definition, but from the meaning of data. And that's what we call hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is a step above the metadata definition. And so when you think about, yeah, it's really interesting stuff. But if we train AI to understand the hermeneutics of the data, meaning the meaning of data,
Yeah.
when you have AI or an internal chatbot, you go against your data source, and the data source is using hermeneutics as the meaning of data, it eliminates the drift, it eliminates the hallucination. And that becomes important when you're starting to take federal credit unions, for an example.
Yep.
Federal credit unions talk to other federal credit unions. They don't share information, but they share reports. And those reports have different meanings because they all have different databases, they have different structures. And so when you pull all that information together, how do you ensure that AI that you're using to do interpretation is interpreting the information correctly? And so that's where it becomes important to look at data from the meaning of data versus the definition of data.
Awesome. Steve, thank you so much. We're coming short on time, but I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. Good seeing you again.
Wonderful to see you. For those of you that are following along at home, if you have any questions or have any feedback or any comments, please reach out to Steve Ashley via LinkedIn.